Hi guys, how's it going? It's been a long time since I've created a YouTube video, so I apologize in advance if this is a little rough. I've kind of got to get back into the swing of things. But anyway, I wanted to make this video because I did a little experiment with tracking food. Some of you might know that tracking macros is really popular right now. A lot of people do it. It's a great way to get results if you do it the right way. But one of the main drawbacks to it is that it's tedious and you have to weigh out all your food. So that can be kind of a pain in the ass. So if you're not ready to be like on full on tracking mode, there is another method that you can use. It's using your hand to measure food. And I first heard about this method from Precision Nutrition. If you Google Precision Nutrition calorie control guide, it should pop up. So basically the way that it works is you use your hand. Your palm is to measure protein. So any serving of protein that you have should be the size of your palm, including the thickness of it. Vegetables should be, a serving of vegetables is about the size of your fist. Grains and starches are measured with a cupped palm, and fats are measured with your thumb. So women should have one serving of each at each meal. So that means one serving of protein, one serving of carbs, cupped, one serving of vegetables, and a serving of fat. Men would have twice that. So two servings of protein, 2 servings of starch, 2 servings of vegetables, and 2 servings of fat. So they would use 2 hands. Using this method is ideal for having like 3 to 4 meals a day. So I wanted to what I did is I tested this out. I used my hand to measure out food, and then I weighed it to see what the caloric equivalent of my meals was using my hands. So using this hand measuring method, there's a couple of obstacles that come with it. It's not a perfect science, but it is very useful. For example, oddly shaped foods or foods that have no shape. So what I mean is like a slice of cheese. How should you use your hand to measure that? Or like oil. Oil is a liquid. How do you measure that? And in instances like that, you use your hand as a rough estimate. So if you're pouring oil into a pan, like kind of just try to estimate this much. Like I said, not an exact science, but it's still a good guideline. With cheese, okay, so cheese is going to be my segue into the next obstacle that you might come across, which is mixed macro foods. So for example, cheese is protein and fat. Eggs are protein and fat. So if you're trying to use your hand to measure them, it's kind of like, which do I count it towards? Do I count this as my fat? Do I count this as my protein? My suggestion for that is to count it towards the macronutrient that it has the most of. So for example, cheese, a full fat cheese tends to have more fat than protein. So I would generally count that more towards your fat. Unless you have like a lower fat variety of cheese, like string cheese, then you can count it towards your protein. With things like this, you kind of just have to use common sense to measure them out. So you'll see, like when I go into the experiment and show you the meals that I ate, there's some examples of this, and I'll show you what I did. And like I said, a lot of it is just kind of using common sense and using your hand as a rough guideline, even if it's not perfect for measuring the food. I don't know if you can hear my cat here. Another obstacle that you might come across are mixed ingredient foods. So like salads or burrito bowls, stuff like that. That's just all mixed up, you're like, how do I measure this? What I would recommend for that is just eyeballing it and using your common sense and using your hand as a basis of comparison. And if you're in a restaurant and you, I don't know, you order like a salad or a bowl of something, and it's gonna be like a really big pain to try to like sort out like all the macronutrients in it and measure with your hand. A general guideline I like to give is to just use fists to measure the food. So for women, I would say maybe like 3 fists worth of food. So like 1, 2, 3, regardless of what it is. So it would be maybe like this amount of food. And since it's restaurant food, it's going to be more calorically dense. It's probably going to have more fat. So that amount, like 3 fists, would probably be like a safe serving size. Men might use like 4 to 5 fists. So again, you're eyeballing it, but using your hand as like a basis of comparison. Another thing is when you go out to eat, I don't usually like try to account for a fat, like using my thumb or whatever, because restaurant food from the outside world generally has more fat in it because that's the way that they cook it. So I just automatically count that into my meal. Like I assume that it was cooked in a lot of oil. So let's get into the experiment. I use this hand method with 4 meals. Like I did it across 2 days. So I'm going to show you pictures of them and kind of talk a little bit about it. I get a meal delivery service. So that's why you're going to see some of these meals, like I already got them delivered to me in their containers, and I kind of sorted them out and measured them out using my hand. So the first meal that I did this with was it was a chicken burger, and it came with pita bread, plantains, some arugula, cheese, and caramelized onions. So I took out the plantains because that was going to be a lot of carbs with me already with the pita bread. So this is what it looked like in the container, and then I sorted it out. So this is me plating that meal. You can see my palm there next to the chicken. So the chicken was already like a pretty good size. It was about the size of my palm. I separated the greens, the arugula salad stuff, and there you see, so it's about the size of my fist. I counted the cheese in this as fat. So this would be a good example of like cheese. How do I measure cheese? So this is shredded cheese, so it was a little bit easier. I kind of just tried to guess, like estimate how much was a thumb size. And then my palm, I used my palm. Well, there was half a slice of pita bread. So like I said, I'm not overthinking this. That's like a serving of carbs, of grains. It's close to the size of my cupped hand, my palm. So like whatever, not gonna overthink it. So yeah, okay. So that was the first meal that I measured out with my hand, and then I weighed and calculated the calories to see how much it is. And this meal was 406 calories. Okay, so second meal. This is one of those hodgepodge meals that I was telling you about where it's all kind of mixed up. This is a chicken burrito bowl that also came with my meal delivery service. So you can see in the pictures chicken, rice, beans, avocado. There's some corn in there too. So what I did was I separated chicken. So this was about a palm's worth, and I measured it out, and I believe it was 3.5 ounces, which is a good serving size of protein. You can see my bowl is on top of the scale. So rice, I measured that out, like estimating a cupped palm. So then here's the avocado. Please don't mind my super long nail. That does not count towards my measurement. So yeah, I tried to put a thumb's worth of avocado into my bowl. and that ended up being about 264 calories. Okay, so my next meal, which was actually the next day, and my breakfast. This is the breakfast that I eat every day. So yeah, and it's a slice of Ezekiel bread toasted, a slice of cheddar cheese, and one fried egg. So again, one of those kind of like gray areas for using your hand to measure. So you can see in this picture, the egg is about the size of my palm. The cheese is also about the size of my palm, and the bread is also about the size of my palm. So this meal is a little bit lower in protein and a little bit higher in fat than I would prefer, but I really like the breakfast. It's a small serving, whatever. And this meal is about 260 calories. And so the final meal that I did this with was stewed chicken, broccoli, and sweet potato. So this was like the most straightforward meal that I had. I measured out the stewed chicken using my, my palm. You can see my fist here over the broccoli. It's a good serving size of broccoli. And there's about a handful of sweet potato. And this meal was 300 calories. So you can see that using this hand measuring method, my meals range anywhere from like 250, 260 to 400 calories, which, is a decent amount for my size. If I were looking to lose fat, especially if I had maybe like 4 or 5 meals a day. Again, this is not an exact science, so you need to pay attention to your body, and if your body is like, I'm freaking starving, then increase those servings a little bit. So if you combine all of those meals together, let's say those were all the meals that I ate in one day, it's about 1,200 calories, which is pretty low. Even for me, I'm a smaller person, like if I wanted to lose fat, 1,200 calories is like the absolute lowest I could go. And just speaking from history, I don't even need to go that low to lose fat. So using the hand measuring method does help to control your portions. It might be a little bit too little for you in some cases, depending on how much leeway you give yourself. But again, it's just a guideline to help you measure your portions without having to obsess with a scale or measuring spoons and measuring cups. So if you have any more questions about tracking your food, please feel free to ask me. I hope this was informative and that you learned something and that it helped you. I've also included a free guide of the top 6 mistakes that people make when they're tracking their food. So if you need help troubleshooting your tracking, let's say you've been tracking for a while now, but you're not seeing any progress, I would highly recommend checking out this report that I wrote. It might clarify some things for you, and it's totally free. I'm going to provide a link for it attached somewhere to this video. So check it out, and we'll talk soon. Bye.